calls for a rethink on scrapping free COVID tests.
The man who might have to reduce visits to his wife in her West Sussex care home.
Now the latest from ITV News Meridian in the south with Matt Teale and Sangeeta Bhabra.
Hello, welcome to Wednesday's ITV News Meridian.
The headlines in the south this evening. Calls for a rethink on scrapping free COVID tests. We speak to the man facing fewer visits to his wife in her Sussex care home.
I need to go and see her, and she needs me to go and see her. So, yeah, I would say it's crucial for both our well-being.
Meanwhile, staff shortages put added pressure on Southampton Hospital. It says A&E is the busiest it's ever been.
Adapting to life as refugees, the family who fled Kyiv to set up a new home here. Now the search for jobs begins.
And why is actress Sarah Parish driving around Hampshire with a giant hair in a classic car? Good evening. With free access to COVID tests coming to an end for most people tomorrow, testing sites across the south are beginning to wind down their operations.
PCR and lateral flow tests will now have to be paid for unless you are eligible to have them for free, such as NHS and care staff and people at risk of serious illness from coronavirus. Meanwhile, infection rates and hospitalisations have risen in recent weeks.
Well, in a moment, we'll be at Southampton General Hospital to see how it's coping. But first, Richard Slee is at the Creekmore COVID Test Centre near Poole. Richard, has it been busy where you are today?
Yes, there's been a steady flow of patients at this site here today. This site is the drive-through COVID testing site used by many people in Dorset who have an appointment for a COVID test. This site will close tomorrow, but the mobile testing site based in Bournemouth closed this afternoon, and that's despite a recent increase in COVID cases. The figures for Bournemouth show that there was a spike of positive tests a few days ago at more than 1,700 per day, and that's compared to typically half that number just 2 weeks ago and even fewer at the beginning of the month. And these figures are not unusual. In Basingstoke, for example, the increase is at a similar rate, typically 1,200 positive COVID cases per 100,000 people. It's a rise that is not good for local businesses.
So we have a small team here, and as you can imagine, with a small team, as soon as one person goes positive, it is extremely likely that you're going to see another case in the team, and then before you know it, you have sometimes even up to half of the workforce off at any one time, and it leaves us scrambling. It's really put the pressure on it. It's not a very nice feeling knowing that there's a very real chance that you might not be able to open that day because of staff illness and because of positive cases. We are a board game cafe and restaurant, so the entire operation is based around the idea of those person-to-person interactions where people can actually sit around the table with each other and enjoy each other's company again. That's why we have to take all these extra steps. That's why we have to constantly be aware and make sure that we are testing as regularly as we are able to ensure that we have a safe environment for people so they don't have to worry about this kind of stuff.
So from Friday, free tests will not be widely available, and that'll have a big impact on people like Alan Beachley from Worthing. Alan will now have to pay for his tests so that he can visit his wife Veronica, who's in a care home, as Christine Alsford reports.
It's got a lovely smell on it.
For Alan Beachy and his wife, his visits to her care home are the highlight of their days. Today they're celebrating 60 years of marriage with flowers, chocolates and congratulations from the Queen.
I need to go and see her. I would say it's crucial for both our well-being. Absolutely, 100% crucial.
But from April the 1st, the government is scrapping the free lateral flow test that Alan has to complete every time he sees Veronica, who has dementia.
What would be the impact on you if the tests were no longer free?
it would cost me money. But whether it meant I went less often, it might do, but I would do whatever I've got to do.
What do you think the government should do? Do you think they should carry them on for free for people in certain situations?
Yes, I do, really.
Around 70% of care home residents have some form of dementia. The Alzheimer's Society is urging the government to rethink its plans, saying care home visitors must still be entitled to free lateral flows.
From some of the initial costs of lateral flow testing that we've seen, we're estimating that could be an extra £73 a month for somebody just in order for them to visit their loved one on a daily basis. Unfortunately, it's going to make people either have to choose between buying tests or cutting down somewhere else, and we don't think that that's fair.
The government is still reviewing provision for care homes and won't be drawn on whether any free tests will be provided after April the 1st. They told us, we continue to review all our COVID-19 measures for adult social care in line with the latest scientific advice and will provide further details of any changes in due course. The care home that looks after Veronica say they currently have a stockpile of COVID tests, enough to supply relatives for months to come. But some are worried about what happens when that begins to run out. Christine Alsford, ITV News.
Well, some vulnerable people will still be able to get free COVID testing kits, and the government hopes that market forces will keep the prices down for the rest of us. For example, there is a firm in Weymouth that's hoping to provide test kits for as little as 99 pence.
OK, Richard, for the time being, thank you very much indeed. Well, as we mentioned, COVID cases in hospitals have been on the rise, but the government says that more than 55% of patients who've tested positive are not in hospital because of COVID.
However, the number of cases, coupled with staff shortages as workers with symptoms isolate, is putting an added strain on some of our NHS services. Sally Simmons, Southampton General, for us tonight. Sally, how is the hospital and staff coping?
Well, here at Southampton General, they say their emergency department is busier than ever and want to remind people not to come unless it's something urgent or life-threatening, as hospitals across the south really are facing huge pressures. And one problem with the rising number of COVID cases is that in hospitals they have to be segregated into COVID and non-COVID. And so that requires more wards and that requires more staff. And at the same time, sickness rates are on the up because so many people are absent because they've tested positive. Now, the Department of Health say they will give more indication tomorrow of who exactly will be eligible for free tests. But as we understand it, NHS staff, NHS patients in hospital and those who are going into hospital for surgery will be eligible. Now, earlier we spoke to an expert in infectious disease, and Dr. Michael Head said he really believes stopping free testing is happening far too soon. He says it sends a signal that COVID is gone and that it hasn't, and that it's going to add pressure on the NHS, which is already feeling it.
They do have staff who are off sick with COVID, and obviously they do have a lot of patients in hospital with COVID-19, which takes up a lot of resource to manage. So that's a knock-on effect onto other areas of health, and that's one of the key issues here that I don't think we talk about enough. Waiting lists for routine operations are sky high, and indeed, if you have an urgent need for an operation, then you may not be able to have it because there's not enough anaesthetists around because some of them are off sick and things like that. So hospitals are still under huge pressures as a result of COVID-19 and some other factors as well. So that's important to consider when thinking about how we approach policies for COVID-19.
We're here at Southampton at the maternity unit across the road, Princess Anne. They have suspended their home birth service because of added pressure on the ambulance service. So it seems that the staff that we clapped for because they were working over, above and beyond are still flat out and wondering just what the end of free testing will mean for them.
Sally in Southampton, thank you.
In other news, a murder investigation is underway in Southampton after a man's body was found at a property in Mansell Road West. Police were called just after 6 o'clock this morning. A 49-year-old woman from the city has been arrested on suspicion of murder and remains in police custody.
Police are continuing to appeal for witnesses after 2 people were killed in a crash outside Cowfold near Haywards Heath. An 83-year-old man from Worthing and a 30-year-old woman from Elsford both died in the 3-vehicle collision on Monday. Officers are particularly keen to locate any dashcam footage.
Brighton's Green Party has issued a petition calling on Southern Water to stop releasing sewage into seas and rivers. The company has faced a number of protests in recent months, including at its headquarters in Worthing, following spills that closed beaches around the region. It says it's investing £2 billion on improvements.
Plans to redevelop the former Toys R Us site in Southampton have been approved by councillors. The store closed in 2018. An existing building will be demolished to make way for more than 600 flat shops and restaurants. There were concerns from some objecting to the proposals about the lack of affordable housing that was being offered.
Chichester District Council could decide to move out of its current headquarters. It's because more council staff are choosing to work from home as a result of the pandemic. Evaluation of the building by a third party has been recommended, as well as looking at the cost of building a new office.
Drivers in Portsmouth have been urged to turn off their vehicles' engines when they're not moving. It's part of a new campaign to improve air quality in the city. People are also being encouraged to walk or cycle shorter journeys.
More than £250,000 has been awarded to Whitelink to improve travel for disabled customers. The ferry company says the money will go towards improving Portsmouth and Ryde. Ticket machines will be installed at the right height for wheelchair users. Now you're watching ITV News Meridian. Coming up on the programme.
Why a giant hare is being driven around Hampshire.
And there's a change to something much colder heading our way overnight tonight thanks to this weather front. Find out all the details later in the show.
And you can find more on all of our stories today, of course, on our website. itv.com/meridian is the address. You can call us with an idea for a story. And of course, you can follow us on Facebook and on Twitter.
A number of flights at Heathrow have been cancelled this evening because of a technical issue affecting British Airways flights from Terminal 5.
Passengers took to Twitter to complain about delays and a lack of information from the airline. BA has apologised.
The technical glitch has now been resolved, but customers are still being advised to check their flight status with BA before heading to the airport in case their flight is cancelled.
Well, Heathrow says it's supporting passengers throughout the evening.
A man from Brighton who brought his wife and stepdaughter out of Ukraine to safety in the UK says their future is far from certain. Dan Baker and his family fled Kyiv as Russian forces closed in.
Well, now they're battling bureaucracy as they work out how to support themselves here as refugees. Malcolm Shaw has been to see them.
So we're going to do this today.
A home from home. Dan Baker was born here in Brighton, but since 2016 he's been living in Kyiv with his Ukrainian wife Victoria and her daughter Veronica. Now they're staying with Dan's parents in Sussex as they adapt to their new life as refugees.
It's always nice to come back to your hometown, but I don't want it under these circumstances. Everyone's been great, of course, but now I've had time to reflect. It's just how much we've left behind. Not just physically, because, you know, these physical things can be replaced, but emotionally, and, you know, we've all left our hearts in Kyiv because that's where we live, and I don't know, it's kind of quite a sad feeling.
Dan and Victoria ran a language school in Kyiv and had just renovated their flat. But when the war started, the family had to take shelter in a basement before deciding the situation had become too dangerous. Fearing for their lives, they reluctantly left Ukraine.
It's like a dream, which cannot finish. I cannot wake up. I still cannot believe that it's happened to us. From what level life we had before and what we have now, it's big difference. We disappointed, and yeah, sometimes it makes me angry.
The family drove through Ukraine and crossed the border into Poland. They flew back to Britain from Krakow.
Yeah.
Sadly, they had to leave their beloved cat Pumpkin with a Polish friend until they can work out how to bring her to the UK.
When I see videos of ginger cats on Instagram and TikTok, I'm like, oh, where's my Pumpkin? But I think that it's better because it's better so she being in the apartment where someone gonna touch her, can send videos, photos, her, and we know that everything okay with her. She stay with a really nice guy.
They have the speed trials along here. They try to do the quarter mile as fast as possible.
The family are enjoying being able to explore Brighton in safety after the dangers of war-torn Ukraine. But money is running out, their accommodation only temporary.
The sofa that you can see us sitting on is Veronica's bed. Victoria sleeps on a camp bed on the floor, and I move the table and sleep on some cushions. You know, it's not the ideal situation. Even though it's my parents' house, we feel safe. It's not good for either of us.
Finding where to live, work and study are just some of the challenges which still lie ahead for Dan, Victoria and Veronica. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News, Brighton.
Next tonight, black-owned businesses in our region are calling for more support and research into the value of the so-called black pound, which is the money spent and earned by people in black communities.
In many cases, it can be harder for black business people to access the funding and resources key to making a successful brand. Alongside this, many in the community feel existing retailers don't cater to them. Amrit Birdie has more.
Toki Ogunkolati owns a small business in Southampton. He says supporting black businesses is important for equality.
As a black man or black person in business, there are a lot of things and a lot of stigmas associated to black people. So it's nice to actually put that focus on trying to support black people or black business owners coming into the overall business space to give them the same opportunity that everyone else has without that stigma associated to what they do.
Research into the value of the black pound shows that by not catering to black and minority ethnic people, many established businesses are missing out on tapping into an extremely profitable market.
I walked into a store to buy some makeup as a young woman, and the store assistant said to me at that time, it was a big department store, that they only stocked normal colours. And at that point, I just could not believe the boldness, and I just couldn't believe that what had been said to me, in all honesty. You have to look at who are the decision makers, who are the creators, the innovators, you know. And what I found through other research is that 97% of CEOs in the UK are from white backgrounds. Without diversity, you will always have a blind spot. And I think that's definitely the reason why this market has been overlooked.
Black and minority ethnic people contribute around £3 billion to the UK economy every single year. And yet many feel like big businesses on the high street aren't selling with them in mind. It's led to a push for people to buy from some of the 250,000 black-owned businesses in this country. Black Pound Day was founded in the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement. It encourages shoppers to buy from black-owned businesses on the first Saturday of the month in a show of solidarity with the local community.
Supporting a black business means you're supporting a black family. During this post-pandemic period, we are amongst the most affected. The more diversified your shopping experience is, the more nuanced your thinking is about supporting multiracial companies and understanding their experience when it comes to the products they create and the time and effort gets put into them. So you're supporting founders that are making the products. You know, we're about 6% over here of the population in the UK. So 6% of each shelf should be products from black founders so that, you know, you get that diversified experience.
The team behind Black Pound Day say progress has been made, but they believe more research should be carried out into the black pound to recognise its true value to our economy. Amrit Birdie, ITV News.
It's 19 minutes past 6 and the ITV Evening News continues here at 6:30 with a preview now. Mary Nightingale.
Coming up on the programme, the shocking maternity failings that cost the lives of 201 babies. Today's report found the litany of mistakes at the Shrewsbury and Telford Trust were repeated for years, with mothers being blamed for the deaths. We'll take you through what went wrong. Also ahead, Russian attacks continue near Kyiv despite a promise to scale back. Baby P's mother is cleared for release from prison. Now the Justice Secretary wants a review. And a star-studded memorial for the cricketer Shane Warne. Do join me for that and more at 6:30.
Well, let's get more on that memorial service for Shane Warne. Andrew Pate joins us in the studio. An emotional day, as we saw around the world and here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an outpouring of emotion, wasn't it? From the Ageas Bowl near Southampton to the MCG in Australia, as the memorial service was held for the former Hampshire cricket captain Shane Warne. It took place in his home city at the Melbourne Cricket Ground after the sporting legend passed away earlier this month from a heart attack. Over 50,000 people gathered, and the service was also live streamed to other cricket grounds around Australia. The national anthem was sung by the granddaughter of Don Bradman, a fellow Aussie cricketing icon. As Shane Warne's family watched on.
I think for a lot of us, especially our family, it's a great honour to have it at the MCG. He's done a lot of great things here. It's where he got his 700th wicket. He's made a lot of Victorians, Melburnians and Australians proud here on the very ground we're standing on, and I couldn't think of a better place around the world to have a send-off for him, because this is what he deserves.
On to football now, and Crawley looked destined to finish the season in mid-table after losing last night. Playing in blue here, they found themselves 2-0 down against playoff-chasing Salford. And although Tom Nichols' header pulled a goal back, John Yem's side stay in 13th place in League Two. Up to 4,000 spectators will be able to watch Speedway and Greyhound racing at the Oxford Stadium. Now it's finally been reopened, and of course it's been a long time since it closed down. I was there earlier today. Roaring back into action. The sound and smell of Speedway returning to the Oxford Stadium for the first time in 15 years. And what a transformation it's been. When we filmed here 9 months ago, it was a wasteland, the track unloved and untouched. Today, riders returned under the watchful eye of three-time Speedway world champion Jason Crump.
I think it's really important because obviously in recent times we've lost Reading, Oxford's been away for many years, Swindon's having trouble at the moment, so this little part of the world where Speedway has always been strong. Speedway fans are Speedway fans through thick and thin, and I'm really happy for the fans of Oxford that the Speedway's back.
With the stadium abandoned for so long, a whole new generation of fans can enjoy the sport.
A lot of people won't know what Speedway is, so 100% come along and watch it. It's fast and furious, 4 riders, 500cc alcohol fueled bikes, no brakes. Races on average are around about a minute, so it's fast and intense.
Speedway returns for its first meeting on April the 13th, with Greyhound racing returning a couple of months later, as the Oxford Stadium erupts back into life.
I always knew that Oxford Stadium was a big stadium in the world of greyhound racing, but I actually see it's a big stadium in the eyes of Speedway racing. So to get it back and to see the support, and bear in mind we haven't done a lot of marketing behind this, and we're expecting all the 3 home fixtures in April to be sold out, which is staggering news.
The Oxford Cheetahs spring into action in the Championship 2 weeks today, while their development team, the Oxford Chargers, will be enjoying their inaugural season in the National League. Yeah, that first meeting is going to be quite some party.
I'm assuming, Andrew, that was you on the bike at the end, was it?
Absolutely, yeah, you just couldn't tell because of the helmet. Exactly that.
Good. Good to know.
Thank you. Now, do you remember Southampton's multicoloured zebras or Brighton's giant snails? Well, now a new artistic animal trail is coming to Hampshire.
Yes, this time enormous hares will be popping up at local landmarks, the brainchild of actress Sarah Parish, who with her husband James Murray has helped raise millions for Southampton's Children's Hospital.
Well, the trail involves dozens of local artists and community groups, and as Rachel Hepworth reports, it's certain to be colourful.
The star of Bancroft and W1A, Sarah Parish knows how to make an entrance. This summer, 30 uniquely decorated hares will be joining this one in locations across Winchester and Southampton.
It's lovely. After the 2 years that we've had, just driving around with a giant hare in the back of a car, people are elated. They love it. They wave, they clap, they cheer. Everyone's phones are out. It's just nice to see people having a good time and enjoying themselves.
It's the latest venture for the Murray Parish Trust, created by Sarah and her husband James Murray after the death of their young daughter Ella Jane. They've raised a staggering £5 million for Southampton's Children's Hospital, but are determined to do more.
The money's going to go towards individual rooms in the paediatric intensive care unit, rooms where children have a bit more privacy, a bit more dignity. The paediatric intensive care unit is a very open space and a very frightening place. You know, I spent a long time there with my first daughter. So these rooms will mean that children and parents alike will have a little bit of privacy and a little bit of time when they most need it.
Southampton has seen hugely popular rhino and zebra trails in the past, but the hares will be the biggest yet, a lifeline for local artists after a tough lockdown.
It's a fantastic platform to get their work out there and to be shown in front of such a wide audience as well. Hundreds of thousands of people will see their work. A real boost actually, which is much needed, as we all know.
Among them, artist Sally Gooden, working on her nature-inspired hare, Oriana.
It's been a real honour to have this huge hare to paint, and I've just been putting in some pretty flowers of daisies and daffodils and ferns. It's just really about hope and new beginnings after all the being stuck inside.
The full designs will remain a secret until the big reveal in June. Community and youth groups have also been decorating dozens of leverets.
I had 30 children over 2 weekends come into the cabin. It was fantastic. They all loved having a little piece that they knew was theirs.
And as Southampton bids for City of Culture status, it's hoped the Hares of Hampshire will help showcase its artistic talent. Rachel Hepworth, ITV News.
Sarah Parish with her bunny ears. She's such a good sport, isn't she? But what a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I mean, incredible fundraising, obviously, but just the joy it brought people today and will do in the future
and
as well.
And it was something for all ages, I think. Well, let's get your weather now with all the details. Here's Helen Roberts.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Hello, there is a change coming our way overnight tonight, and that will bring much colder conditions lasting through the rest of the week and in fact into the weekend. Very breezy at times as well, just exacerbating the cold feel. And there are some wintry showers in the forecast for some of us at least. Now, the reason for the change is this cold front here pushing through overnight tonight, introducing a northerly feed of air, the air coming all the way down from the Arctic eventually, so really feeling quite cold compared with recent days, and that strong wind making it feel colder still. High pressure out to the west, keeping things fairly stationary over the next few days. So let's have a closer look at the details of the weather this evening and overnight. Thicker cloud bringing increasingly persistent rain for a time overnight tonight, and that rain could turn to sleet or even wet snow over high ground in particular. That will clear through later in the night, but it will be a cold one compared to recent nights. Temperatures widely down to or just a touch above freezing. So if you're heading out early tomorrow morning, it will be noticeably cold, but brightening up quite nicely and fairly quickly. So it's looking like a day of a lot of sunshine, just 1 or 2 showers blowing through. And again, with that cold air, those showers could be a little bit wintry in nature, especially over higher ground. Look at those temperatures though, compared with recent days, significantly down, just 6 to 8 degrees at best. And with the strength of that north to northeasterly wind, it really will feel bitter at times. Remaining chilly through the next few days with further showers at times.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
And just a moment, the ITV Evening News continues here with Mary Nightingale. I'll have your late news just after 10:30.
For now, though, from us and all the team, that is it, of course, for this evening. We are back same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.
See you then. Bye-bye.